Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're counting down the biggest screen hogs in Survivor history. This is the second video of two, so I'd consider going back and watching that first one if you missed it. There are some great and honestly unexpected screen hogs there. If not, though, I can catch you up. It's no big deal. I'm calculating screen hoggery by the percentage of the total confessionals received by the players. I consider doing confessional averages overall, but there are a few early boots that get a lot of confessionals but are then booted early, which skews their average. Like, the first boot of Survivor Thailand, the evil preacher from Twisted Metal Black, has a whopping 7 confessionals in episode 1, giving him a confessional average of 7. He's like technically one of the most visible players ever on Survivor. So yeah, percentage of the total confessionals sounds like a better way to me to track who was on our screen most of the time for the longest time. Along the way, we'll also be hopefully unpacking why these people got so many confessionals, although in most cases it's fairly obvious. I've already covered numbers 12 through 7, so with all that said, let's dig into the 6 biggest screen hogs in Survivor history. At number 6 is JT, holding 17.6% of the confessionals in Survivor Tocantins. Despite some seriously diminishing returns in later seasons, JT played the first perfect game in Tocantins, getting 0 votes cast against him throughout the season and collecting every single jury vote to win, a massive achievement only matched one other time in the history of this game. And JT's game is quite impressive. Pre-merge, all roads led back to him and his ride or die Steven, who basically decided who went and who stayed on Jalapao. At the merge, JT, Steven, Taj, and Joe entered disadvantaged, with only 4 members to Timbira's 6, then lose Joe to a medical evacuation, leaving them even more screwed. But somewhere along the way, everyone became entranced by JT's southern charm, to the point it was kinda weird. I mean, Brendan quite literally begins playing for JT to win after meeting him one time. This isn't even me making a joke. Brendan literally says this.
If he wins it, that's like me winning this game. How do I get him to the finals? I don't know. This is the next step I need to wrap my head around.
JT, Steven, and Taj's navigation of a post-merge where they're seriously outgunned is so good. They're pretty much never in any risk of going home. They exploit a cocky Timbira, putting wedges in between exactly the right players, while JT's charming of Coach and Brendan allows them to basically choose their own adventure on whichever Timbira alliance they'd like to proceed in the game with. JT took Steven to the end, ensuring a flawless victory by completely stomping him at Final Tribal. Not that it mattered at all, he already had the game won by this point, but still playing BFF to Steven up until the second Final Tribal began, then relentlessly digging into him so as to catch him off guard, is a great move. JT's edit is completely reflective of his game on the island, and is totally justified in my opinion. He was relentlessly charming, aligned with the exact right people, and played the bad hand he was dealt at the merge masterfully. He dominated the game beginning to end, and even shut out some extremely stiff Final Tribal competition. If JT never returned, he'd easily be in contention for best player ever, but, you know. Let's just pretend this never happened. Or this. Or this. Cute handwriting, though. At number 5 is Coach in Survivor South Pacific with 19.9% of that season's confessionals. I guess all that iron did eventually sharpen iron because Coach plays a downright good, if somewhat controversial game in South Pacific, putting himself at the center of the Upolu tribe, eliminating those who sought to depose him, cultivating strong tribal loyalties through faith and prayer, and keeping loose cannons like Brandon in line. Perhaps his best move, though, is flipping Cochrane at the merge, a necessary evil given that Upolu and Savai entered the merge tied up with 6 players apiece, and someone had to bend. Coach completely calls out Savai's whole game plan to Cochrane, then makes a literal line in the sand, asking Cochrane to join him. It's great manipulation. Coach made it to Final Tribal, where he was probably the favorite to win, but fumbled nearly all of his jury answers by dipping into the coach of old, by refusing to own his betrayals and manipulations. Look, I'm not doubting the sincerity of Coach's faith, only his sincerity when he says he didn't use it as strategy. He did.
I find Coach to be a little more questionable when he actually is the one saying, dear God, help us find the idol, when he knows he has the idol in his pocket.
One can emphatically be religious and win this game without cynically using their faith as a weapon. See Vesepia. South Pacific is probably my least favorite iteration of Coach, in part because it's his best game. I think he was actually trying to win this time, but that comes at the cost of him being his least coachy here. As for the oversized edit, the fact of the matter is Coach is always going to get screen time. He's Coach. Literally the best casting decision in the history of this show. But because he actually was playing to win, he ends up turning borderline game body at times, instead of delivering the coachisms we know and love. Sure, they're still peppered throughout here and there, but it just isn't the same.
It was good because it was funny, but at the same time there was a message, and the message was, hey, family comes first.
God, if we had more of this would be a great season. At number 4 is Tony in Survivor Cagayan with 21.1% of the confessionals. It's almost impossible to imagine Survivor now without Tony, but going back to episode 1 of Cagayan, it's almost impossible to imagine he doesn't flame out immediately. Tony started his game on Apari, the Brawn tribe in this Brains v Brawn v Beauty season, and was actually kind of in trouble early, with him and Trish both outside the main alliance. Still, he made crucial early game allies with Trish and Sarah that would pay off throughout the game. And in the case of Sarah, pay off 12 seasons later too. Now, you can't talk about Tony and not talk about his idols. He found 3 immunity idols throughout the season, including a super idol, but never played one successfully. He did, however, do something even more impressive with his idols than just play them. He weaponized them by constantly referring to his bag of tricks, making everyone genuinely fear what exactly might be pulled out at the next tribal council.
When we come to this game, we're accepting the fact that we're going to be deceived, we're going to get stabbed in the back, and that's why I brought my bag of tricks with me today.
What's in the bag of tricks?
We'll probably find out tonight, Jeff, but it's something to make me feel a little bit more confident here tonight.
While Tony's best known for his idol antics, his ability to create genuine relationships is also a crucial part of his game. At the swap, he bound post-swap Solana together into a tight fivesome, even keeping Wu in the mix despite blindsiding Wu's closest ally. He then kept that alliance together throughout the swap, even as he took out members from his own alliance every other round. His ability to keep people loyal through his relationships with them culminates in what I think is Tony's best move ever, convincing Wu to throw away a guaranteed win against Cass at the final 2. It is next-level manipulation. Tony's Cagayan game is nothing short of revelatory, proof that you can play as hard as a Hans and still have the respect of the jury at the end. And Tony is a producer's dream. He really has it all. He's got great energy, he's completely sincere, he's great at finding idols and advantages, and he has winner equity. What's not to love? And I didn't even mention his spy shacks, bunkers he built around the island to peep in on conversations had by the other players. Why, you never know when he might show up. He could be watching us right now. Oh my god, Tony. Scared me. At number 3 is Rob Sesternino with 21.3% of the confessionals in Survivor Amazon. Before he was a hardworking Survivor podcaster, he actually played the game and got a whole lot of screen time doing it. While alliance flipping had been done before, Rob was the first player in history to consciously jump back and forth between alliances, starting with the very first vote when he finds himself the swing vote between taking out Ryan or Roger. Rob sails through the early game on the strength of his personal connections and, yeah, Magic 8 Ball, getting to the swap where he forms crucial alliances with both Dina and Matt. After Roger and Dave are voted out at the merge, Rob is the swing vote basically every episode, swinging from one alliance to take out Dina, then right back to the other alliance to take out Alex. And when Christy threatens to become the swing vote instead of Rob, well, he just rallies the troops to take her out too. Rob came one immunity challenge away from winning the game, but proved worse than Jenna at holding a feather headdress attached to a string of beads tied to his neck while balancing barefoot on a narrow perch, and was voted out at Final 3. Come on, Rob, you should have practiced this one at home. Rob is a constant presence throughout the narrative, and really picks up steam post-merge with all of his flip-flopping, getting 4 episodes with 10 or more confessionals apiece. And why not? He genuinely revolutionized the game, showing that a single person could steer the ship, opening the door for future serial flip-floppers like Johnny Fairplay and Jonathan Penner. Rob's confessional count is also aided by the fact that he's genuinely hilarious, constantly using his confessionals to make fun of his fellow castaways.
I said that the only way Roger is going to win immunity is if it's a contest named that Perry Como song, or perhaps what type of prune is this, or some sort of other thing that only an old man like Roger would be able to determine.
But it never comes off as mean-spirited or anything. Rob's clearly having fun and is willing to make fun of himself just as much, if not more, than anyone else. Although I do wish we could have seen more of Jenna and Matt. I think they're both extremely fun characters for pretty much polar opposite reasons. But Rob's earnest and hilarious confessionals truly make Amazon, even if they're using the least flattering angles ever to film him. Not sure who approved the dad trying to use FaceTime camera angle. At number 2 is Boston Rob in Survivor Redemption Island with 23.6% of the Redemption Island confessionals. You knew it would be here. Boston Rob's winning game, one of the most dominant of all time, both on the island and on the screen. Boston Rob and Russell were both brought back this season, presumably to settle an old, actually very recent score. The Rob v. Russell showdown was the clear draw of this season, but don't trust my opinion, just watch this promo.
This February, get ready for the biggest Survivor showdown yet, when 2 of the game's baddest villains return. Rob versus Russell in the ultimate rumble in the jungle.
This island ain't big enough for the both of us.
I'm gonna need a bigger torch.
With Redemption Island as the main twist, there's even a failsafe baked into the season, practically assuring that 2 former players who are both physically and strategically strong will make the merge for their promised score settling. Oh, you mean the promos lied to me. Rob was sent to Ometepe by random chance. A rather lucky draw for him, as Ometepe was far more receptive to working with a returning player than Zapatero was. Once on Ometepe, Rob quickly asserted dominance and never let up. He immediately took out the 2 people who weren't drinking the Kool-Aid, Francesca and Christina, ensuring he had full control over a bunch of passive and loyal players. And full control he had. Rob only faced a few minor hurdles from the merge until the endgame. First orchestrating the elimination of Matt, whose loyalties to Ometepe were sorta wavering since they, voted him out. Then a handful of times from Zapatera, who intermittently targeted Rob or Philip, although none of Rob's allies ever actually jumped ship. At Final Tribal, Rob coasted to an easy win over Philip and Natalie, neither of whom the jury respected. Although, just to be sure, David makes an impassioned plea to his fellow jurors.
When we started this game, 2 people came in. One of them claimed to be the best to ever play the game. He walked out on day 8. There's a guy sitting over there that just played the best strategic game this game has ever seen. And it's pretty damn easy to tell you who deserves to get your vote tonight.
David, passionate speeches are actually more convincing when you're not wearing cargo shorts and flip-flops. Rob's Redemption Island edit is nothing short of glowing. The entire season is told from his point of view because the entire season is themed around his rivalry with Russell. And with no Russell around, who else is going to get that airtime? Not Grant. It also helps that he played a great strategic game, fourth try or not, exhibiting a level of control over his tribe unseen before or since, having them happily report back to him anytime they wandered off to do anything, not even stopping to think that, hey, it's kind of weird we have to check in with this random dude every time we go use the bathroom. The most abjectly ridiculous moment that made the cut, though, and my personal favorite, comes in the form of some very excited Jeff commentary at the Final 6 Immunity Challenge.
He is literally carrying his family on his back.
You know, he was proud of that one. Redemption Island is a season where your enjoyment will be 100% based on your love of Boston Rob, or at least watching one player completely dominate others. At the time, it was beyond frustrating watching Ometepe not realize that the call was coming from inside the house. But 10 years on, I've actually grown to sort of like it. But then again, I'm a Boston Rob fan, and I've got the receipts to prove it. You know, it's kind of weird. His number one tip in life is to get on Survivor, marry the winner of your season, and become best friends with the host. That hardly seems practical. The biggest screen hog in Survivor history is Russell in Survivor Samoa, with 27.8% of Samoa's confessionals. Yes, Russell, who is also the 8th biggest screen hog in Survivor history, is also number 1. Who else could it be but Russell, the only person ever to get more than 25% of the confessionals in a season, right here in Samoa? I do want to give Russell the credit he deserves. His Samoa game is legitimately, strategically great, albeit risky, as he essentially tanked Foafoa from within by hiding tools and destroying clothes, all to further his control over the tribe. To his credit though, early on, Russell even shows that he's downright flexible, willing to sacrifice his ally Ben in the name of tribal harmony. Still, Foafoa dwindles down to 4, leaving them at a major deficit at the merge. But each of the Foafoa 4 managed to pull their weight here. Natalie, through her social bonds with Galoo, was able to convince them to vote off Eric, giving Foafoa an opening to exploit. Jason won several immunity challenges, keeping the targets on Foafoa low. Russell found and played idols. And Mick... Russell's Final 11 idol play is one of the best ever. He read the Galoos perfectly, sniffed out he was the target, and idled out Kelly, a strong power player, even though we didn't really see that in the edit. Russell made it to the end with Natalie and Mick, but his chronic underestimating of Natalie ultimately cost him the game. With her insanely good social connections and elimination of Eric, and Russell's generally not great treatment of Galoo, resulting in her win. Because Heroes vs. Villains was filmed before Samoa aired, I can't help but believe that Russell's oversized edit was essentially to serve as a direct advertisement for the following season. Survivor's first proper All-Stars since... well, All-Stars. And with the knowledge that Russell not only does well, but is a crucial part of much of the strategy and plot lines that season, well, of course they're gonna pump him up in Samoa. Unfortunately, like George Lucas in the Star Wars prequels, they went a bit too far in places, giving him 108 confessionals to Natalie's 15. I mean, there's really no excuse for that. I'm generally of the opinion that if someone is getting a billion confessionals, it's because they're the ones delivering the most entertaining material. And Russell is a great confessionalist, but it is honestly just too much. How many times do I have to hear Russell talk about his Russell seeds? First of all, phrasing. And secondly, let's spread that love around in the edit. Like, can we see what, I don't know, Dave is doing?
Danger Dave. Baseball your sport?
No, making love's my sport.
You play a lot?
Not often enough.
Okay, better to avoid that topic, perhaps. Got nothing else for you. To help me literally carry my family on my back, like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.